Welcome to CAN Bus Basics for Automotive Beginners. We will understand how vehicle computers share information reliably using one of the automotive industry's most important networks. A modern vehicle contains many computers called ECUs, or electronic control units. One controls brakes, another controls engine, another controls body functions, while others manage steering, climate, lighting, and driver information. These computers cannot work as isolated islands. Vehicle speed, brake status, steering angle, door state, engine temperature, and many other signals must move continuously between different controllers. Connecting every ECU directly to every other ECU would create enormous wiring, cost, and complexity. Controller Area Network, or CAN, solves this problem by allowing many controllers to share one communication bus. Instead of building hundreds of point-to-point wires, ECUs transmit structured messages onto a shared network. Any controller interested in that information can listen and react. This simple idea is the foundation of CAN communication.
The physical CAN architecture is surprisingly simple. Multiple ECUs connect to the same two communication wires. These wires are called CAN high and CAN low. Each ECU normally contains CAN controller logic plus a CAN transceiver. The controller handles CAN frame processing, while the transceiver converts digital controller signals into electrical signals on the bus. At both physical ends of a typical high-speed CAN bus, termination resistors are placed, commonly 120 ohms each. The network therefore looks like one shared line with many nodes connected along it. When one controller transmits, every connected node can electrically observe the same frame. This is very different from Ethernet switching, where traffic can be directed between ports. CAN is fundamentally a shared broadcast bus. That shared architecture keeps wiring simple while allowing many vehicle functions to communicate.
One of the most important CAN concepts is this. CAN does not normally send a private message from ECU A to ECU B. Instead, a controller broadcasts a CAN frame onto the bus. Every node receives the frame electrically. Each node then decides whether the message is relevant to it. That decision is usually based on the CAN identifier and software configuration. Imagine the brake controller broadcasts wheel speed. The instrument cluster may use it for vehicle speed display. Another controller may use it for stability functions. A data logger may record it. The sender does not need separate physical messages for every receiver. This is why CAN scales well for shared vehicle signals. It is better to think in terms of message producers and consumers, rather than sender addresses and receiver addresses. That mental model prevents one of the most common beginner misunderstandings. A CAN frame carries more than just application data. At a beginner level, think of it as several important fields. First comes arbitration information, including the CAN identifier. Then comes control information, describing the frame. Next comes the data field, containing the actual payload. Traditional classical CAN supports up to 8 data bytes in one frame. A later extension, called CAN-FD, or Controller Area Network Flexible Data Rate, supports larger payloads and can transmit the data phase faster. The frame also includes error detection information using CRC, or cyclic redundancy check. Finally, receiving nodes participate in acknowledgement behavior when the frame is received correctly. You do not need to memorize every bit to understand CAN. The key point is the identifier tells what kind of message is being sent. The data contains the signal values, and CAN itself provides mechanisms for arbitration, acknowledgement, and error detection. The CAN identifier is another area where beginners often build the wrong mental model. The identifier is not simply the address of the receiving ECU. It identifies the CAN message and also participates in arbitration priority. For example, one identifier may represent wheel speed information. Another may represent engine status. Another may represent steering information. Different receivers can subscribe logically to whichever identifiers they need. Standard CAN frames can use an 11-bit identifier. Extended CAN frames can use a 29-bit identifier. The actual meaning of each identifier is defined by the vehicle network design. A CAN database, often represented using DBC files, can describe how raw CAN bytes map to engineering signals, such as speed, temperature, or state. So when you see identifier 0x123, do not ask which ECU owns that address. Ask instead, what message does this identifier represent, and which controllers need that information?
Now imagine two ECUs try to transmit at almost exactly the same time. CAN must decide which message continues without corrupting communication. It does this using arbitration. CAN defines dominant and recessive electrical bit states. While transmitting, every node also monitors the actual bus. If a controller sends a recessive bit but observes a dominant bit, it understands that another message has higher arbitration priority. It stops transmitting and waits to retry. The winning message continues normally. This is called non-destructive arbitration, because the winning frame does not need to be retransmitted simply because contention occurred. In normal CAN arbitration, a lower numerical identifier has higher priority because dominant bits win earlier in the arbitration field. This allows important messages to receive predictable access to the bus. But priority design must be engineered carefully. Giving too many messages very high priority can delay lower priority traffic.
Why does CAN use two wires instead of one? CAN high and CAN low carry a differential signal. The receiver is interested mainly in the voltage difference between the two lines. External electrical noise may affect both wires in a similar direction. Because the receiver compares the difference, common noise can be rejected more effectively than with a simple single-ended signal. This is extremely useful inside a vehicle, where motors, ignition systems, power electronics, and long harnesses create electrically noisy conditions. The twisted pair wiring also helps reduce electromagnetic interference. This physical layer robustness is one major reason CAN became so successful in automotive systems. The protocol is not only about software messages. Its electrical design was created for difficult real-world environments where communication must remain reliable despite noise.
The termination resistors are equally important. High-speed CAN uses a transmission line structure. If the bus ends are left electrically open, signal energy can reflect back along the cable. Those reflections can distort the waveform and create communication errors. To reduce reflections, a typical high-speed CAN network places 120 ohm termination at each physical end. With the vehicle powered off, technicians often measure roughly 60 ohms between CAN high and CAN low because the two 120 ohm resistors appear in parallel. This is a useful diagnostic clue. If you measure approximately 120 ohms, one terminator may be missing. A very different reading may indicate wiring, termination, or topology problems. The exact diagnosis still depends on the network architecture, but the 60 ohm check is one of the most useful beginner CAN diagnostics. Let us follow one simple vehicle example. Assume a controller measures wheel speed. The sensor information reaches the responsible ECU. That controller converts the local measurement into an internal value. At the required timing, it packs that value into a CAN message. The CAN controller attaches the identifier, control, and protection fields. The transceiver places the frame electrically onto CAN high and CAN low. Every node sees the frame. The instrument cluster recognizes the identifier, extracts the relevant bytes, converts the raw value into engineering units, and updates the speed display. Another controller can consume the same frame for a different function. Notice the separation. The sensor hardware does not know about the cluster. The transmitting ECU does not directly call a cluster function. The CAN network distributes standardized messages, and each receiving controller interprets the signals it is configured to use.
CAN was designed with strong error handling. A receiving node checks whether the frame follows CAN rules and whether the CRC calculation is correct. Nodes also monitor transmitted and received behavior for protocol errors. When an error is detected, CAN can signal an error condition, so corrupted communication is not silently accepted. Controllers maintain internal error counters. A node experiencing repeated communication problems moves through defined error states. Eventually, a severely faulty node can enter bus off, meaning it stops actively participating in normal bus communication. This protects the network from one malfunctioning controller continuously disturbing every other node. Recovery behavior depends on controller configuration, system software, and vehicle design. For beginners, remember the key idea. CAN does not assume every transmitted bit is always correct. Error detection, fault confinement, and retransmission behavior are fundamental parts of the protocol.
CAN is extremely important, but it is not the only automotive network. LIN, or Local Interconnect Network, is lower cost and commonly used for simpler local devices where bandwidth requirements are modest. CAN provides robust multi-node communication for many control and body functions. CAN-FD extends CAN with larger payloads and a faster data phase. Automotive Ethernet provides much higher bandwidth and is increasingly used for cameras, central compute, diagnostics, and high-speed backbones. These technologies coexist. A modern vehicle can use LIN inside a door, CAN between controllers, and Ethernet between high-performance computers. So the right question is not which network replaces all others. The right question is, what latency, bandwidth, cost, topology, and reliability does this communication path require? CAN remains valuable because it offers a mature, reliable, and efficient solution for a large class of automotive communication.
The complete CAN story is now straightforward. Sensors provide physical vehicle information. An ECU processes that information. Its CAN controller creates a frame. The CAN transceiver places the frame onto CAN high and CAN low. All connected nodes observe the transmission. Arbitration decides which message wins if multiple controllers transmit together. The identifier describes the message and contributes to priority. Receiving ECUs filter relevant identifiers, decode the data, and use the signals. Differential signaling, termination, and error handling make the network reliable in a harsh electrical environment. So when looking at a CAN trace, do not think of computers sending private letters to one another. Think of a shared vehicle bus where controllers publish prioritized messages and interested nodes listen to them.